to AWS with minimized downtime. My name is Ryan Boyer, Senior Partner Solutions Architect at Amazon Web Services, and I will be your host and moderator for today's presentation. When you join today's webinar, you selected to join by either phone call or your computer audio. If for any reason you would like to change your audio selection, you can do so by accessing your audio pane in the control panel. From this control panel, you will also have the opportunity to submit questions to today's presenters by typing your questions into the questions panel. We will collect the questions and address as many as we can during the Q&A session at the end of today's presentation. Also, at the end of today's event is a brief survey. Please stay connected until the end of the broadcast and submit your feedback as your opinions count. Lastly, a recording of this webinar will be available on YouTube via emails that will be sent out 2 to 3 days after the conclusion of this event. So keep an eye out for the follow-up email sent to address you at the address you provided. Again, welcome to today's live webinar, Migrate SAP Workloads to AWS with Minimized Downtime. I'm Ryan Boyer, a Senior Partner Solutions Architect for Amazon Web Services, and I'll be your host and moderator for today's webinar. Today, you'll learn about SAP workloads on Amazon Web Services. We'll hear from our featured customer, EIS, and we'll learn about migrating critical SAP workloads with Velocity Technology Solutions. Joining me today is Andrew Hartley, Chief Information Officer at EIS, and Chance VC at SVP of SAP Line of Business at Velocity Technology Solutions. Please remember to post your questions in the chat box throughout this presentation, as we will review questions at the end of today's event. All right, everybody, let's begin. All right, so this is Ryan Boyer again. So as we see at AWS, we see increasing demand for SAP workloads running on AWS. And I'm going to try to spend as much time as I can to quickly get through this so we can really get to the heart of the story with EIS and Velocity. But we really want to talk about why SAP and AWS make a lot of sense to run together. So what we see as the reason customers are looking at migrating SAP into the cloud, we look at a lot of different areas here. We see cost reduction for one of the most common reasons. SAP customers are seeing anywhere from 20 to 50% TCO reduction by moving SAP to AWS. Digital transformation, the ability to start improving, going beyond monolithic architecture and taking advantage of services like AI, ML, data lakes, and getting more out of the data insights that come with that. Thanks for changing the slide. This is really agility, staff productivity. We really see customers looking to run SAP to become more agile and not worry about depending on hardware upgrades or dependencies so they can move faster. And getting rid of the technical debt that comes with the data center retirement, security from a physical layer all the way to like network security to procuring power. It's just a lot to manage if you're running your own data center. So moving into AWS helps alleviate a lot of that. And again, I mentioned it earlier, but getting more out of the data that you have today, it becomes increasingly burdensome when you're trying to pull data from multiple sources across multiple data centers, multiple vendors, getting everything into AWS and taking advantage of AWS solutions like Lake Formation and Redshift to start building out a data warehouse and a data lake really start to give a lot of advantages to our customers that are looking to provide deeper insights. So why SAP and AWS? We have a really strong history working closely with SAP. One of the things that we like to talk about is SAP's own cloud offerings run on AWS. So things like SAP Cloud Platform, Concur, Qualtrics, these all run on AWS. So SAP knows that AWS is the best place to run their products, and we agree with that. So, if you look at the history, it started with NEDB back in 2012, but over the years, especially with the evolution of HANA as an in-memory database, we have been leading the pack with the ability to take large in-memory databases like HANA, and recently in 2019, we launched the first 48 terabyte in-memory solution with 48 terabytes of RAM with 100 terabytes SSD storage. And this gives customers the ability to run larger and larger instances, and that's anywhere up to 40 terabytes, but we also have 2 terabytes for customers that don't need as much. So we are constantly evolving our solution for how we support SAP in AWS. Another reason, for the 9th consecutive year, Gartner's Magic Quadrant report for cloud infrastructure as a service worldwide, AWS continues to be a leader for both, vision and execution on that vision. So when you start looking at where we go into with that, specifically from the SAP perspective, apologies. AWS continues for, infrastructure hosting for SAP. AWS continues, again, to be the leader when you look at, excuse me, the ISG report here. So, there's a lot of players in here, a lot of legacy, and AWS is a great opportunity to say, this is the best place to host my SAP workloads. And, companies like Velocity Technology Solutions have continued to bring their platforms and their capabilities into AWS, further solidifying where the platform is for people whose business really live on SAP. I mentioned earlier kind of some of the different options for EC. So EC2 is Amazon's virtual machine product. It's what we call instances. And, if you're looking to run SAP HANA, we have the largest variety of options that you can find in cloud service providers. So anywhere from 0.244 terabytes of memory and terabyte up to actually this is 48 now. We launched that last year, but this is the variety of high memory instances that we have to allow you the ability to scale out the options that you need within your own environments for SAP HANA. So again, this is a full cloud native offering. There's no it's fully integrated into all 100 or 200 plus AWS services. This is elastic. So as you grow, if you start with a 9 terabyte database and you now need to move into a 12 terabyte as your production workloads expand, that's completely doable. And AWS allows that to happen as just part of the service. You can just upgrade the instance type and not worry about the contractual commitments or the procurement of hardware. And that just allows for better speed to market and time to value for your organization. So again, this is one of the other reasons we really see customers adopting AWS for SAP workloads is the ability to have both a breadth and depth of service instance types. So as we've talked about the instances, the availability of different hardware types. So what we're also seeing from a motivator is we're looking to get the transformation for digital enterprise to happen. So this means, looking to grow revenue, both the top line growth through things like agility and speed to market for new products, helping with real-time reporting and access to better analytics, but also, getting into the operational overhead and cost savings. So digital platforms help, customers contain bottom line costs to increase margins. And this allows for things like automations and digital workflows to streamline operations, allowing employees to focus more on operational insights. So people see the benefits through their own lenses, and it means a lot of things that are different to different people. But for some SAP customers, the combination of SAP next generation suite of applications such as S/4HANA, either using AWS as the platform of innovation or also enabled by the SAP Cloud Platform, running on AWS is really the best way to unlock a powerful set of capabilities. Another thing we like to talk about is the one-way versus two-way door decisions here at AWS. And this is a core fundamental philosophy that we have. When making decisions, a one-way door solution or decision is something you can't come back from. So, take a data center migration, the procurement of hardware, the purchasing, and the commitment to a 3-year data center co-location contract. That's a one-way door decision. That's not something you can change very easily. If you over-spec the hardware requirements, you are going to eat that cost. Maybe you can allocate it to a different project, but you're not going to be able to come back from the decision. One of the things with AWS, SAP on AWS allows experimentation and operation without having to commit long-term to specific instance types. I mentioned earlier that as your workloads grow, but also as your workloads shrink, you can change the instance types down so that you can continue to optimize your environment. You can also scale up only for when you need scale, maybe over like holiday seasons like Black Friday or moving into the December holiday season. You can scale up for those and then change your settings so that you go down to where you need to be and right size for the remainder of the year. And now we see customers, again, I talked about this earlier, but customers want more value from their data. We have a lot of different groups, business intelligence solutions, Tableau, QuickSight, they're becoming more and more increasingly popular for more different diversity of end users and organizations. Everybody wants access to data to make good business decisions. At AWS, we call it data-driven decisions. We have a history of taking different data to make decisions. And the ability to take a SAP workload like HANA and run it in AWS and connect to AWS's different sources, things like Redshift and Lake Formation and Glue and Athena, these different tools for data analysis, it's really helpful to start getting to that point. One of the things we talk about is traditional data warehouses don't scale. So when you talk about data silos and kind of getting data in, just having a data warehouse really silos data. So the idea of going into AWS and taking your SAP data and connecting it into a data lake to connect with other sources of data really have emerged as a proven approach that we see with our customers, using the open data formats, things like Parquet, and tagging data and making it searchable for different business units to really take advantage. So this is what we're seeing more and more of. That move to the cloud with AWS and SAP allows a customer to really focus in on getting that data into the right place and taking advantage and building the analytics tools and business intelligence tools and taking advantage of things like machine learning. We have a suite of just AI services that are based on machine learning where you can do Comprehend is a great one where you can just go and get insights of your data without having to run your own models. So this is increasingly becoming what we see from our customers wanting to achieve. Again, agility, it's just really important. Many of the customers we meet have data centers full of valuable product, but they're challenged to access it in a useful manner. So, the producers of the data versus the consumers of the data, this is where getting the data into AWS and building data lakes on AWS from your SAP environment really is going to help accelerate your time to value for your migration. Here's an example of an end-to-end enterprise analytics with SAP data. This is a pretty common deployment that we see right now. Customers want to do end-to-end enterprise analytics, which includes data from SAP and non-SAP applications. Maybe your corporate website has a inventory database that's not running on SAP. Customers want to drive business transformation using AI and ML, and you'll see I mentioned the AI ML services earlier, but AWS has the most complete vision when it comes to machine learning services and cloud service providers. And a lot of these here are just simple API calls that you can integrate with everything. To the right of Amazon SageMaker is just a simple API call. You don't have to have machine learning knowledge on staff to start using these machine learning tools. So, this is one of the things that I find very valuable for SAP customers is the access to the ancillary features where they can start to get more and more insights out of their data. Hey, so this is my last slide before I hand it over, but one of the things I also like to talk about is AWS has the most robust set of partners in the SAP ecosystem. Look at Velocity Technology Solutions is a great example. They're one of our managed service providers that are accredited through our managed services provider program, and they provide an excellent value. So for customers that are not ready to do AWS on their own, or they need to move quickly on AWS, companies like Velocity Technology Solutions are an excellent partner to go and start getting that journey and getting into AWS and get the foundation set with your ERP solution. And that's going to be really valuable for the long term to get a good landing zone, a good basis for what you need to be doing in your cloud strategy, and then working to evolve through the cloud adoption framework, the cloud adoption journey, migration acceleration process. There's a whole lot of things that we can be doing to help you there. this was my last slide. So I now am going to hand it over to, excuse me, and I would like to introduce Andrew Hartley, the Chief Information Officer at EIS, to take over from here. It's all yours, Andrew.
Well, thank you for that, Ryan. Appreciate the introduction, and hello, everyone on the call. Appreciate your time. I'm sure many of you are sitting out there seeking to gain information, weighing the same types of decisions that we weighed back in 2016 whenever we started this partnership with Velocity. I think just to get started, I'd like to explain a little bit about what we do at EIS and what the business proposition is. The business began back in the 50s, and the easiest way to understand what we do is remember what our core acronym was. EIS was the Electrical Insulation Supplier. And the business is comprised of any of the products that you can think of that create electricity. So inside of motors and transformers and electrical producing devices, we supply all of those components with the exception of the structural steel. So we've become a partner to, many common names in the industry, Honeywell and Baldor and Leeson and common motor manufacturers. Tesla is a customer of ours. So you can think through pretty much anyone who's using electricity, they're probably a customer of ours or probably a supplier of ours, and sometimes they're both. The business was originally an ESOP. It became owned by Genuine Parts Company in the late 1990s. And while we were owned by a public company, we were tasked to grow and get kind of beyond the level that we were and the reach of customers that we had. And in doing so, we went into electrical distribution companies. So we had some cable connectivity businesses that we purchased. So what we've ended up with is really two primary business operating systems, one being SAP and the other being Oracle EBS. So we run, two of the most common ERP systems for our distribution business. We also have some value add business, light manufacturing, cutting, slitting, forming these, electrical insulation components into things that are usable by end customers. But the business is primarily located in the continental United States. We do have facilities in Canada and Mexico. If you think about our value proposition, we're really no different than any other distributor. We're providing, a glue between our partners and our suppliers and our customers. So we like to, it's funny, there's a lot of discussion about disintermediation and how you frankly protect yourself from a distributor standpoint from folks like Amazon. And what we really find is that this is it's not a challenge that's new, and it's not something that hasn't been happening for as long as distributors have existed. So what we try to do is find areas where we're, more interesting to our customers, value propositions around electronic solutions, be it vendor managed inventory that we provide for them. We're always looking for, a way where we can do something a little different than you could get in a common digital marketplace. And all of our products are tailored around that. So we've built moats around various lines of business, and this electronic capability is an area that we have spent a lot of time on. And with that kind of thinking, one of the challenges we had back in 2016 was how could we get away from some of the tech debt? How could we get away from so many of our internal staff being focused on keeping the lights on? So with Genuine Parts' help, there was really a push at that point in time to move to the cloud. And as we thought through how we would make this transition, we didn't feel that we were at a point where we could just jump into SaaS solutions. We had a heavy investment into hosted platforms. We were running on our own infrastructure. So we were looking for a partner that could help us, bridge that gap. We had an aging workforce that was maintaining some of these systems. Through a bake-off process, Velocity emerged as one of the clear leaders in the SAP hosting space. So we engaged with them, and in early 2016, we migrated our SAP infrastructure away from an IBM hosted solution into a common Lintel solution, which was hosted in Velocity's own data centers in Minneapolis. And throughout the course of this journey, which we'll talk about and take questions at the end, they have migrated these workloads over to AWS. But I think the main point of emphasis here was really just the partnership that we experienced with them. We had some existing in-house staff that they partnered with. It was very easy to work with them. They were willing to, allow us access in ways that made good sense as we went through and vetted where the knowledge lied. We became truly a partner with them, and they were working hand in hand with us. We didn't get the sense that there were many other people out in the marketplace that could do this. So I think with that movement, we understood that we had a solid foundation. We were able to shift some of our thinking away from these internal tech debt projects over to more growth-oriented projects around digital, our selling digitization project, the CRM, and also our business intelligence projects that we're working on. As we went through the possible candidates, we moved the entire stack. So there's nothing that we have left in-house. All of the different modules of SAP have all moved. Our Dev QA production instances are there. Velocity is the first line of defense for our support issues. We also rely on them for some development capability. Again, we maintain a third-party support relationship for SAP, and we have primary support through Oracle with our EBS solution. But in both of those instances, Velocity is the first phone call that we make. There are no issues whatsoever with their in-house hosting capability, but we saw an opportunity for scale, resiliency, redundancy, and the movement of their back-end infrastructure into the Velocity cloud, into the AWS cloud, just gave us scale and the ability to restore systems and minimize concern about downtime that we couldn't experience when we were in their own data center. One of the things that was impressive to me about working with Velocity is we've been through several upgrades. We've been through these migrations where we went from their infrastructure to the AWS infrastructure. All of these things have been completed in the windows in which they prescribed that they were going to be completed. That's, again, having worked with a lot of vendors over the years, that's not something that is as common as you would like it to be. One thing Velocity was very willing to accommodate on is when we went through the test scripts, if we saw bumps in the road or we saw areas where things needed to be tightened up a little bit, they were perfectly willing to run through it, get the timings down correctly, and go through until we're able to hit those windows. So in all instances where we've performed some sort of migration, they've always been able to get us up and running whenever we needed to be, and that was very appreciated by our part. Again, the support opportunity that we have with them, they're the first line of defense. We go through their managed services department. We use them for month-end close activities on the Oracle EBS side. Again, that's part of an outsourced arrangement that we have with them. I think that their level of expertise with the applications is always going to be first and foremost the thing that we think about when we think about them as a partner. We trust them to make good, solid decisions around the infrastructure. This move over to AWS is no different. And all we see with that is just increased scale, increased adaptability, the opportunity for us to restore systems at a moment's notice. The data's moving in real time. We just have a robust infrastructure that we couldn't have otherwise. Thinking a little bit about our confidence in what we've done with them, the move with the EBS system, I think we worked on that for somewhere in the order of about a month. And following the SAP transition up to the AWS cloud, we moved the EBS system as well. So all in all, we're supporting somewhere in the neighborhood of 650 users across both platforms, roughly 400 on SAP. And again, they've been a great partner, and look forward to answering any questions you might have whenever we have the wrap-up session. But with that, I'd like to turn it over to Chance, our partner at Velocity, and give the floor to him. Thank you, Chance.
Thank you, Andrew. Really appreciate the leadership you provide our partnership and everything you do at EIS. My name is Chance Vesey, and I'm the Senior Vice President at Velocity, responsible for our SAP line of business. Excited to be here today to talk about the partnership that we have with EIS and how we deliver our services using AWS. Ryan mentioned earlier the breadth and depth of the services and capabilities at AWS. And I thought I'd start with the depth of service that's available at Velocity. And this is what we provide organizations like EIS. It starts, with the infrastructure and platform and the cloud services. And so this is our managing AWS on behalf of our customers to help them make sure, they take advantage of getting rid of the technical debt, of being able to transition, to a true DevOps operating experience, being able to get through all the OS and security patching, regularly and to stay vigilant. We then add on top of that a set of operational support, which, for our SAP customers includes basis and application management. And then, as Andrew mentioned, we're known for our application expertise. And so the functional support of being able to answer how do I questions from the user base and being that first line of defense for anything that's technical or functional in nature really allows us to provide, value back to the customer. For a number of organizations, we provide business process services like month-end or year-end, open enrollment season, different business process that, our scale allows us to provide a set of expertise and predictable outcomes that are all service level based. And then for organizations that are looking to roll out additional functionality, whether that's core functionality from SAP or additional development, we provide the professional services and the development expertise. So there's a full depth of service that we provide. We know one size doesn't fit all, so we're able to tailor our solution as organizations need it. But the combination of application functional support combined with the basis, combined with the DevOps on top of AWS, really provides a unique experience for our customers who are all looking for, greater resilience in this time, being able to provide services back to their business users in a resilient fashion, being able to do it at a lower total cost of ownership, and at the end of the day, being able to say they've got more value. And so that's the approach at Velocity. We do this for complex workloads. We mentioned SAP running on AWS. We also manage Oracle on AWS and Infor on AWS. We manage all these solutions, and EIS is one of many customers that use multiple ERP platforms with Velocity that we manage at AWS. So we have certifications not only from AWS, but also from the application providers in these core areas. And then as organizations look at all those systems that may integrate with the ERP system, it generally makes sense to have those, taking advantage of the flexibility, adaptability of the cloud, and we move those and manage those as a platform as a service on the cloud as well. So organizations get the benefit of the, high availability infrastructure, of having the DR in the cloud, really provides an integrated experience for our customers. We deliver this migration methodology in a very prescriptive approach that allows us to get to reliable results for our customers. And it's a typical approach of discovering, focusing on the scope, and using tools that we have to look at the dependencies between applications so that we can have the sequencing of the migration happen correctly. We believe in a measure twice, cut once, so we spend a good bit of time up front planning before we start building. And our builds are all automated. We use Velocity's cloud application management platform to do all the provisioning of systems and software so that everything is provisioned based on patterns and a software-defined architecture. And that allows us to do things very quickly and allows organizations to get started using the resources at AWS very quickly and, improves their speed to value. There's a validation, a test process. We recognize the systems that our customers trust us with are the most important systems that they operate. It has the most sensitive data, key business processes that, with order to cash or paying their employees or reporting their financials to their board or to their investors. The data that we manage for our customers is key, and these are their systems. And so although we do a good bit of testing internally, and we have automation that helps us with that with a number of platforms, we also engage our customers so they can validate as well. We have a routine for doing production cutover. We have, over the last 8 days at Velocity, we've had 8 go lives in the cloud. So these types of cutovers are very predictable. It's very checklist based, but it's also automated. And so our automated cutover and creating a communications pattern with our customers, allows a predictable outcome so organizations can plan on the downtime that's required and go live very quickly. And then we're always looking to optimize. And so that organizations, we may have a system a little larger go live just to make sure from a risk reduction or be able to scale it up during peak periods of the year. But we're always looking to help our customers optimize their footprint and optimize the services that they're using. Let's take a look at what this looked like for EIS's project. This is their migration timeline to AWS. We initiated the project in September, and so we had a project kickoff that involved both Velocity and EIS. We reviewed the scope, we did a solution architecture review, and we looked at the schedule, and we confirmed, their resources availability for testing. We looked at things like EDI to make sure that, our EDI testing timeline was going to work from the business, that we had the right coordination with third parties set up. And so we spent that month of September, really in deep planning phase. In October, we started the build. All of this was done automated using Velocity's cloud application management platform of vCamp, and 53 total systems were built. We then went through a user acceptance process where there was business testing and IT testing followed by business testing, reviewed all the interfaces and EDI, looked at any of the customizations, and we were ready for go live. We finalized some optimization in December with some patching that we did, doing some timing on the cutover, and just getting all of our monitoring integrated into the new production systems at AWS. And then at go live weekend in mid-January, we focused on limiting downtime. And so we often get the question, what's the typical timeline? We took the system at the end of the business day for EIS on a Friday. We turned it over on Saturday morning by 9 a.m. to the IT team to start doing a unit testing and a shakedown from an IT perspective, looking at things like security and performance and navigation in the system. And then they turned it over to the business users for full production usage on Sunday. And so, that's the type of timeline that we typically see. We've had customers, turn it over to the business users as early as noon on Saturday after taking the system on Friday night. So we look at minimizing the downtime because we know these systems are the heart and lungs of organizations that are using them. We take a true DevOps approach. So we use automation from Velocity's cloud application management platform. It provides a single panel view where customers can engage Velocity and see the systems that we manage for them in their own separate account. So On top of that, we have an analytics feature that allows to see how the systems and applications are being used. So we have the ability to do proactive notifications. We have the ability to look at employee productivity. There's a security and compliance and risk that look at patch management as well as known risks out in the environment, and all kinds of system analytics that help us right-size environments and do the service optimization. And so there's dynamic auto-scaling, the ability to orchestrate the provisioning of additional resources, significant amount of tooling that allows us, again, to provide our customers a predictable result. We're delivering all of our services against strict service level agreements. And so this is all done through our service management module, where we have integration with our service desk and our consumption metering and our billing integration. Now, you can't do it with just automation to be able to migrate, huge workloads like this. And so we have a dedicated project teams that help our customers, go through this transformation and lead them through it and conduct all the work. Our project teams typically are led by a PMP certified project manager that have a DevOps squad leader who has the overall approach of everything that we're doing in the cloud, several DevOps engineers, and our SAP basis consultants. We then augment the team with functional expertise to come in and do our validation before we turn it over to the customer. And so that combination of technical know-how and functional approach allows our customers to decrease the amount of labor effort they have in these migrations and allows these projects to go smoothly and like we saw here in a 3 to 4 month approach. We typically use Cloud Endure from AWS to do all the replication. And so we seed the source systems with agents from Cloud Endure that start a replication process. And this replication process from source to target at AWS allows us to do a byte-by-byte replication that reduces the amount of testing, reduces the amount of variability in the approach, and overall provides us shorter downtime at cutover. So the Cloud Endure is integrated completely into vCamp and managed through vCamp so that we're able to monitor the replication and keep the source and the target systems current. To support testing, we're able to turn off the replication so that we can see testing in process and then able to resume the replication. So again, we can minimize the downtime at go live. So a true DevOps approach helps our customers transform, again, reducing costs and adding resilience into the overall program and project. At Velocity, we're proud to engage and support over 400 customers every day. And our focus is helping them do what they do better. And that often means transforming the way they interact with their enterprise applications by modernizing them, providing them a managed service, and getting them to AWS so they can start to realize, all the benefits of the breadth and depth and the industry expertise that AWS has. The amount of innovations that AWS continues to announce every year is staggering. And our job is to help our customers, take advantage of those. We have a global team that supports over 200 landscapes, and we've pursued and achieved, the top-level consulting partner status with AWS, along with an SAP and Oracle competency. And these third-party attestations from AWS and our certifications from SAP and Oracle allow our customers to use our service with peace of mind, knowing that they're reducing their risk, improving their resilience, and they're getting a significant cost savings over what it costs to provide these same services to their business users internally. All in all, this provides more value back to Velocity customers so they can drive business success and outpace their competition. So today, what we've learned is that AWS is a market leader for cloud and SAP workloads. We saw specifically their 11-year history with SAP. SAP selects AWS to run their products on, the preferred platform by SAP, and AWS is continuing to offer innovation in the cloud. Ryan took us through the data lake example, and we see more and more of that within organizations. They're starting to not just combine data from different data sources, but do it in ways that also exposes it to artificial intelligence so they can get better, more informed decisions inside the business. Velocity has an application level expertise that we layer on top of AWS that differentiates us. Our history as an application service provider with deep technical and functional focus on the applications makes us unique in the market. And we combine that functional and technical know-how to deliver service levels to our customers. We heard today from EIS that they're continuing to transform their business, become more collaborative, continue to be the glue between partners and distributors. And as a part of the AWS Premier Tier Partner Program, we're glad to provide that glue between AWS and EIS. We're highly automated at Velocity, and we have great people too. We have about 800 employees that use this automation to deliver predictable and reliable service to our customers so that they can be more resilient, save money, and deliver overall better service to their business users. So these are some of the highlights of what we've learned today. I'm going to turn it back over to our host, Ryan, who's going to take questions from the audience. Thanks, Ryan.
Oh, thank you so much. Really appreciate you taking us through that. All right, everybody. So for the remainder of the time, we have a question and answer panel. So please look at your control panel and use the questions capability there to submit any questions. We got to have a couple of questions to kick us off here. So I guess, Chance, this is a good one for you. Would you recommend customers upgrade as they migrate to the cloud or migrate as is with their existing applications?
That's a great question, Ryan, and it really depends on the lens. We see this question a lot from organizations. They're looking for our advice. And so, majority of the market, still more than 70%, has yet to upgrade to HANA in the SAP market. And so my answer is going to be, since we're talking about SAP, is going to be geared towards those SAP users. If an organization is current with SAP on maintenance and can afford to license the HANA database, we would recommend that upgrade to HANA as part of that move to the cloud. What we've seen, on average, is 60 to 70% improvement in batch performance. We also think, since we're involving the business through a testing cycle with a migration, involve them just once, and also, include the HANA upgrade and allow them to get to suite on HANA as part of that migration. We think that's a very valid approach, and we're doing that for customers, as we speak. I think organizations that are maybe cost conscious and want to, are more focused on saving money faster and really looking at, how can I start to, show benefits from a cost standpoint, in 2 to 3 months, we would then recommend a migration as is. And so this includes organizations that, maybe aren't current with maintenance with SAP, or perhaps they don't have the funding to fund the HANA database licensing at this time. And so they want to save money by getting rid of the technical debt and the operation expenditures that they have today. And so in that case, we'd recommend, for organizations that are looking to save money right away, a migration as is. And using Cloud Endure and our automation, we've done that in, as fast as 8 weeks, and typically in less than 4 months. So, those are the two different approaches. I think it, depends on what lens you're coming at it. If you want to start to transform your business and see better performance as part of this migration, and you have the funding to be able to license the HANA database, we would do this. We would upgrade as you go. But if cost is really a primary concern, you want to get to the cloud as quickly as possible to take advantage of all the features of AWS and be able to, retire your technical debt, then I would migrate as is.
Thanks so much for your insight. That was really valuable. Let me go to our next question. Andrew, when you discussed with other leaders at EIS the move to a managed service provider, Did you make the case based on reducing cost or increasing value and service to the business, or both?
Well, it was both, and really, it was never as much about reducing cost as it was increasing our ability to focus on the types of work that we needed to focus on to grow the business, and to really move our attention away from those things that can become a bit of a distraction within internal IT departments. I will say that we have saved some money. We moved away from a fairly expensive IBM stack over to the less expensive platform and the greater scale that Velocity has provided us, and now has grown even more so with their migration to AWS. We also had the issue of an aging workforce. So it was not a clear path as to how we were going to replace some of these individuals. The AS400 technology was, a little on the old side. So it was getting harder to find the types of resources that we needed. So getting to a common platform was of interest to us. And to your earlier question you asked, we did change our database over from the IBM technology to Oracle as part of the migration that we did back in 2016. So Chance's commentary there is very valid, that we did make a decision to make a fairly significant tech stack change. While not an application upgrade, it was certainly impactful.
Great, thank you so much. Okay, so I have a few more questions in the chat here. So this one's for the Velocity team. Do you support SAP on Solaris 10?
We can, but Red Hat is our standard. We've standardized our automation and our tooling, as well as our staff, to all work on Red Hat. And so we typically, if we're migrating a customer from an on-premise solution, we will generally do a re-platform onto Oracle Red Hat, and that has onto Red Hat Linux at AWS. And that really, doing that underneath the covers is not noticeable to our customers. Organizations are getting out of the business of kind of, detailing what operating system they want to run on and what server class hardware. They're looking for business outcomes and that service levels are met. And for us, Red Hat Linux has been our standard.
Just to add to that, Chance, we performed that migration as well. We were running on Solaris with our EBS platform, and then we moved over to Red Hat when we hosted that platform with Velocity.
Yeah, it's a good point, Andrew. I had forgotten that we did that platform change as well. That is typical in what we see.
Great. Right. So one more question again for you, Chance. So when it comes to Cloud licensing and how you do that, does a customer separately license Cloud or is it part of the contract that you provide to them? Just curious how that works.
Yeah, that's a great question. It's part of what we provide, and so the customer does not need to set up a separate contract with AWS for Cloud or pay any additional licenses. It's included in the services that we're providing.
Thanks. And so there's another question in the chat, and I'll take this one. So does Cloud support a platform OS change during the migration if needed? Cloud itself does OS level replication. So it has to be the same host to target sources for the OS. It's just not capable of doing OS migration as part of this. So I was able to answer that one. And another point on the Solaris 10, Solaris just in general doesn't run on AWS without an emulator. So that's probably one of the other challenges people face in looking at that as they migrate to the cloud, is not getting into that technical debt of being stuck with emulation technology, which just will add to additional complexity and problems down the line.
Yep, it just kind of weighs everything down. Agreed.
It does. All right. I have one more question in the chat here. Let me just. So, Chance. So, what is Velocity's experience with S4 HANA running in the cloud?
We've had a very good experience. We've done both greenfield and brownfield implementations of S/4HANA in the cloud. Organizations that were new to SAP, as well as organizations that had been on SAP, and it's been a great experience. I think even if you look at the market data and the research from those that are independent, S/4HANA is a stable, well-performing platform. And AWS is the cloud of choice. I think there's no other cloud that has more HANA installations than AWS. And from, a sizing, the ability to manage it, the ability to do bare metal machines, as, Ryan mentioned, significantly being able to scale those up. The flexibility of AWS is terrific. So Velocity has the capability to upgrade organizations, to S/4HANA or migrate them as is if they're already on S/4HANA and provide that functional and technical expertise. We have HANA certified engineers throughout our organization, and that's an important part of what we do on AWS is providing S/4HANA managed services.
Thanks for that insight. So we've run out of questions in the chat. Does anybody have any other questions? Feel free to post them here. Just give it about 15 seconds. But I think what Chance just talked about is, the ability to both look at a migration without upgrade and with upgrade provides a lot of flexibility to customers based on requirements. If you have, a impending event such as a data center contract coming up for your co-location facility, it's very viable to go and say, hey, I'm going to make this migration as is, and then in 6 months re-engage with, the migration to HANA. We see a lot of customers that go that way, and it's the time to value is to get to AWS, and you can start taking advantage of other features with AWS pretty early on in that journey. Not seeing any other questions, so I'm just going to go ahead and say we're going to wrap up here. So thank you all for attending today's webinar. I'd like to thank both of our everybody that participated today and everybody attending. Please remember to stay connected and complete the brief survey at the conclusion of this webinar. We look forward to supporting you in current and future projects. So thank you again and have a great day. Thank you everybody for attending and participating.